Okay then everybody, welcome back to Nioh. This episode is going to be mainly about the build. I've been asked recently on stream, and I also had a commenter, Electric Cobra, tell me that I should do this a little bit differently. The main thing being I need to basically slow down how fast I talk, which I know I just didn't do there. Right, okay. Whew, bear with me guys, I promise I'm going to go slower this time around. So, let's take a look at everything that's making this build what it is. So first up, let's start with gear. And when I say gear, I mean the clothing that we are wearing. Now, it looks nice, but that's not the actual gear that we're wearing. I've kind of transmogrified that to look cool, so do the same to yours to taste. Now, the rest of this is mainly just any onmyo stuff that I can get my hands on. The main reason for this being this stat, well, these here. So we've got casting speed, change defense to magic C, which basically means that as we level up magic, our defense will rise. Really powerful for us as a mage build. Next up, we've got on the gloves we've got magic power. Now that's probably quite expendable, so if you decide you want a different set of gloves on, feel free to change those. On the trousers again, we've got change defense C, and then on the footwear we got omnyo magic power. So that means really the gloves and the boots are quite expendable. We don't really need those, basically because we have enough magic that gives us enough omnyo power, and I don't think it translates into damage. If anything, it kind of translates into how fast you can inflict status elements onto enemies. So with that being said, what kind of stats do you want on your gear? Now, the one that's closest to where I'd want it is actually the chest piece, which is why I've been soul matching this one. Main reason for that being it has unlimited onmyo, it has life, and it has ki. Now, the main reason these are important is because this has ended up being quite a tanky build, which basically means we've got good defense with large amounts of HP. That's why we want life on there. Unlimited onmyo basically means we've got from this piece of gear alone, we have a 4.6% chance of casting a spell and it not costing us one of our casts. Now, if you can get this across your entire gear, close to 5%, that's going to be nearly a quarter of the time it's not actually going to cost you a spell. I'm unsure as to whether or not we can get it on the weapons yet. I'm currently trying to concentrate getting purple items and getting unlimited omnyo on the pieces of gear. Now, I don't know if it's possible to get this on all of the pieces. I've spent over 200 spirit iron chunks on these trousers trying to get it on them, but still hasn't come up, and I'm still in the process of doing that at the moment. So that is the intention of the gear. Now, when it comes to weaponry, it's kind of down to choice really, but my recommendation as a minimum, and this goes for any build, is going to be on the spear. Now, the reason I recommend the spear is because it increases HP, and obviously, as you increase your HP, your damage with the spear is going to rise. Now, the reason this is important to a magic build is because we are going to be expending points in magic. If you were concentrating on close combat, you would probably have points in stamina and heart for increased ki and heavy armor. So, with that being said, we're not using these, so instead we're going into magic, meaning unlike any other build who could be getting their HP from their stamina stat and then picking another one, we kind of really need to be using body, and so using a spear as our main weapon. The reason I have the dual swords as my secondary is because they hit very often. Now, the reason this is important is because basically when you're attacking enemies with one of these spells on down here, so the lightning and the fire talisman, which give us an augment onto our weapon damage, that's also going to help you to build up status effects, and so being able to hit faster, it's going to build those effects up quicker, making these pretty good. And so really the damage you get from these isn't important. What's more important is the speed of their attack. So with our equipment out of the way, let's look at the skills that we currently have this stage of the game. Now, of course, because we are quite late on, we're in the Tokai region, which I think is the 4th of what I think is 6 after googling it. 6 regions, so we are almost 2/3 of the way through the game once we get past this area. And we have still got a couple of these training missions to go, which I'm going to be doing at the end of this episode. In any case, skills. Let's go through this slower. Again, Electric Cobra asked that I go through this slower, and he or she is probably correct in that I'm kind of rushing through this far too quickly for you guys to keep up. So first up, in the tree, we've got these 3, and the reason we've gotten these first 2 is so that we can get Sloth, and in fact I'm actually going to spend some more points there. So these first 2, I don't really use them. We've got Divigorate and we've got Life Seal. So Life Seal slows down enemy key recovery, and Divigorate basically reduces enemy attack power. They can be useful, but I figure between the cost and space that you have to put spells in, you're not really going to be using them. Sloth, however, is incredibly useful, which is why I've just gone and bought the second one, and I'm probably going to get a third when we get a chance for that. In fact, it looks like I can now, apart from I need more skill points. Okay. Now this basically halves the speed of anything you cast it on, and it really is anything. It can be any enemy, including bosses. So bear that in mind. Very, very powerful spell. Doesn't require a build-up. It literally just works. So that is absolutely excellent. Now then, previously I was running basically just a vast mixture of this stuff, but decided to respec and basically stick with 2 elements. So I've gone with fire, lightning. The reason for this being, lightning causes another slow effect which stacks with sloth. So sticking this on a weapon and building it up with the lightning shot, going to be really, really useful. And if we're facing an enemy we don't want to cast sloth on, or we've already used our sloth, we can use this to further slow enemies down. Fire does damage over time. Basically self-explanatory. Again, same kind of setup where we've got two levels worth of being able to cast it on a weapon, and 3 levels worth of the range attack, because that is more useful. Now, if you use these in concert, you will cause, basically what I mean by that is, if you get both of these status elements on an enemy at the same time, you'll cause a status effect, which basically means that enemies will take twice as much damage. I can't remember what it was called. Now, I have been using the word, but I can't remember what it was called exactly. So that is really, really useful. Over to the right, you've got varying resistances that you can invest into, but I've found no reason to do it. Again, previously I had spent points in all of this, but decided to respec to bring the points out, so that we could have a bit more of a specialisation. So, moving further down the table, obviously there ends kind of your elements. We've then got Shadow Round and Soul Release. Not too interested in these. You got a chance of using your ranged weapons for free. Not too bothered about that. Particularly now we can store ammunition, and we can do Soul Release. Now this basically causes damage, but reduces your familiarity with weapons. Again, not a fan of that, so not invested points there. So next up down here, we have got a few other skills, most of which I'm not using, but I have invested points to get hold of this skill, which is Kekai. So this is quite expensive really, just for the one skill, but it is good. So we've skipped past a passive which gives me some resistance to the Yokai Realm stuff, which is probably actually pretty good. We've got the extended range on our purification, which is also pretty good. But the main reason for coming here, Kekai, which is basically sacred water, but in spell form, so we can reuse it as much as we like. I've not really felt the need to use it all that often. Because we're a mage, we already have good yokai resistance, and so the majority of the time when there's pollution around, it doesn't affect me all that badly, which is basically why I've been able to get through stuff easily. Next up, we've got the Oasis, Rejuvenation, and the Panaka upgrades. Now, the first two, fairly self-explanatory. They're basically spell versions of heals. That one's over time. That one's kind of like a radius that heals you and people around you, but I can't remember how much it was for. I've not really used it. Again, one of the main ones here is Panaka at the end, which have given me a total of plus 20% to my elixir heals. Now, when I healed the elixir, I could be nearly dead. Between this and the prestige upgrades that I've got, which we're going to show after this, I heal almost up to full when I'm on low health. So that's really, really cool. Again, skipped all of these. Not too bothered about resistance talismans. You know, we can raise defense, we can raise resistance to poison and paralysis, all this kind of stuff. Really, you're better off using the ninjutsu stuff, which again I'm going to show in a second. Next up, we got Carnage. It's up to you whether you like the idea of reducing your defense to gain in attack. And if you want to start fighting barehanded, you've got temporary boost to hand-to-hand damage if you don't want to use any weapons. Could be cool, but not something that I plan on using. Next up, we got the Divination Talismans. Again, not really used these. This is basically where you're going to try to get yourself to farm extra Amrita. Don't really fancy spending points in this. However, what I have spent points in is getting more luck. I have found that I'm not getting enough gear, so carrying on, I'm going to have a static plus 25 luck multiplier, so hopefully that'll get me some better gear. This is optional, you don't need to spend points in this. I've not used any Wealthbringer, because that's basically the same but for money. So we've got Amrita, items and money. Items, I think, seem to be the most important stuff to me. At the bottom, well, no, not at the bottom yet. That's the bottom there. We have got the 3 levels in Guardian Spirit. This is going to give us 9 opportunities to use our Guardian Spirit. If you've gotten this far in the walkthrough, you've probably already seen it. Although you probably will see this later on in the walkthrough if you haven't already. Next up, I decided to spend all the points in upgrading living weapon time, so I now have a static plus 5 seconds to my living weapon, which is pretty good, and just means I can cause that bit of extra damage when I'm using my living weapon, particularly in boss fights where it is incredibly useful. We've got Earthfolding Talisman. Really don't think that's worth the 8 cost that it would cost you to equip this into your spell equipment. Basically, just lets you go back to the last shrine that you rested at. We've got plenty of items that can do this, so I kind of skipped over that. At the bottom though, we have gotten all of the onmyo capacity, gives us an extra 10. The reason I decided that we need to max this out was because once your magic gets to 30, you stop gaining in capacity. So basically, between the magic and that, we are now at the maximum capacity for Omnia Magic, which again I'll show in a second. I think it's 50, but I could be wrong. Okay, so next up what we've got to show. So we've done equipment, done skills, status. So let's take a look at our stat spread here. Now of course we're not finished, but 88, we've got 39 body. As I was saying earlier, this basically increases the damage of our spear and gives us more HP, which is awesome. Further down, I got 15 dexterity. This is optional. If you are following this walkthrough, this is basically where my extra points are going from repeating the areas twice, to obviously clear the areas and then show you guys everything and where we have been. This is at 15, basically so that I can do the ninjutsu quest, which we're going to do at the end of this mission, at the end of this kind of tutorial and talk through of the build. And so, if you don't care about that and you don't really want the extra ninjutsu stuff, I mean, I would recommend at least getting them, but we'll be taking the points out of those, putting them into body probably. Raising magic from here doesn't seem all that important. May get a few extra skill points, but other than that, we are fine. And then spirit. This is probably going to end up at 25 and may well be where I put those extra 10 points of dexterity, basically so that we get all of the abilities from all of the guardian spirits, and it will basically help our guardian spirits be more effective, i.e. they will recharge faster and last longer. So that is the overview of our stats. Now from here we could go and have a look at all of the effects that are in place, but trying to explain where everything's come from would be a bit crazy. But as you can see, luck is now at 52, which is fantastic. Spear proficiency is at maximum. That's pretty cool as well. Right, so with our status explained, let's go on into titles. Now in titles, you'll come across a list, and this is going to show you lots of different things that we can accomplish to get us varying amounts of reputation points that you can see at the bottom. Doing this is going to raise that blue bar. When that blue bar raises, you can go to Prestige Summary and you can pick from a bonus. The total of my bonuses so far can be seen at the bottom. So I've had 44 stat increases from this, and out of that I've managed to get 27 luck, 80 extra life, Reduced elemental damage by 4.5%, which is crazy. Increased durability of my living weapon, which is fantastic, of 400, and plus 18 onmyo power. That's probably the least useful out of all of them, but as it's rising and it's free, I felt that was pretty good. Now if you press R1 on this title screen, you can go over to the other one. So we've got Agio and Ungio, with its own separate type of titles that you can accrue. And again, down at the bottom down here, I decided to increase gold earned, item drop rate, key, and elixir recovery, meaning we got extra 3.5% from that as well. 7 toughness basically makes it easier for us to block, and I don't know, whilst I was going through it, I randomly decided to increase ninjutsu power. Not really required, probably should have put that on toughness. So that's where we've spent all of those. Now what does that leave in terms of build? Basically, not a lot. So other things to bear in mind then is the hidden treehouse. Now in here, I'm just going to show this, just so you can see kind of the different things that you can gain whilst you're a part of these kind of factions. Where was the one I picked? I don't know if the one I've selected is already on here. I don't think it is. Why is that? That's really random. Where's the one I'm using? So these all give varying bonuses. Currently I'm using one. See, we've got one here which is pretty cool, plus 40 onmyo power, but I don't think it's all that useful. Change to stamina plus 5. That's pretty good. That's actually really cool. What else have we got? So the one I'm using gives us plus 30% to both Amrita and money gain, which is really cool. However, just looked at that 40 look, and that's also probably pretty good. Hopefully I've not just sped up in talking there. No key consumption while guarding, that's amazing. Damage 12 on foot net, that's not very good. So some of these are better than others. Damage bonus on the Kayakadon, that's pretty cool. Status enhancements, water bow. Where is it? Where's the one I'm using? Can't see it. Cool. So as you can see, depending on what you're doing, that's the one I'm using there, look. So plus 10% Amrita and plus 10% money. You're already belonging to this clan. Why didn't it give him some kind of sign? It's really, really strange. So a lot of people are using other stuff, but yeah, so that's the one that I'm using, which is just helping me to progress the build faster. And that is basically everything. Obviously you can transform, we've got all this other stuff that we can get from basically fighting against the Revenants. So with all of this done, I mean in the walkthrough I still need to do the 2 side missions, but the next thing for us is going to be completing all of the tutorial missions. So starting out, the most important one to this build is going to be the onmyo veteran mission, so we're going to do that next. Hopefully this video is a little bit better, and you guys will hopefully let me know down in the comments. So I'll see you in the mission, guys.